And this latest attack comes as the president says he is not considering strikes inside of Venezuela. No land strikes. NewsNation's Joe Khalil is live in D.C. with more. Joe, good morning. What are we hearing from President Trump when it comes to these attacks?
Yeah, Hena, it really was an important moment there because President Trump was asked directly whether he is considering authorizing strikes inside of Venezuela. He was on board Air Force One when he got that question. The president said, no, that isn't true. But that does seem to contradict some statements that he made just a couple of days earlier when he said, I'm quoting him here, that land is going to be next with respect to the strikes that we've been seeing in the water so far. And all this comes as you've had the Wall Street Journal and others reporting that the Trump administration has at least identified a couple of targets that are specific in Venezuela to potentially strike. And that includes things like ports and airports, naval facilities, military-controlled airstrips, things like that. So here's what we know for certain, because there may be some, different messaging there. But the military buildup, as you've been talking about with Marcus, is very real in the Caribbean. It continues. Now you've got the USS Gerald Ford Carrier Strike Group, one of the most advanced that the Navy has. And that's joining at least 8 warships that are already stationed there, that are already deployed, and several fighter jets there. President talking about Marines as well. So all of that as strikes continue as recently as yesterday. Now, the political fallout for this is important. We know that Congress was getting briefings on Friday and earlier in the week. There was some really frustration, Hena, among both Republicans and Democrats who've claimed they want to know more. They want to understand where the legal basis for these strikes are. They want to know what the White House is thinking. How long is this going to last? Could there be strikes inside of Venezuela? All questions that I've been hearing myself from lawmakers last week. The Washington Post is just now reporting as well that legal counsel from the White House has basically argued that the War Powers Act, which essentially says the White House needs to go to Congress and get approval before a prolonged war or a prolonged military conflict, that the White House is saying they actually do not believe these strikes apply to that law, which means the White House can continue without getting authorization from Congress. I can promise you that both Republicans and Democrats in the national defense space on Capitol Hill, Hena, are not going to be happy to hear about that.
Especially 15 strikes in 2 months, Joe. Thank you for that.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.